The Admiral Graf Spee, a symbol of naval warfare and propaganda in World War II. The Admiral Graf Spee, a Deutschland-class Panzerschiff, armored ship, also known as a pocket battleship, holds a unique place in the naval history of World War II. Its significance extends beyond its technical specifications and battlefield engagements. It embodies the early naval strategies, propaganda efforts, and the psychological warfare that characterized the early stages of the conflict. Early war strategy and the concept of the pocket battleship. The Admiral Graf Spee was one of 3 Deutschland-class ships, designed under the constraints imposed by the Treaty of Versailles, which limited the size and armament of German naval vessels post-World War I. These ships were a compromise between battleships and cruisers, equipped with relatively heavy armament but with lighter armor to increase speed and range. This strategic design aimed to enable these ships to outrun stronger opponents while still overpowering weaker ones, fitting perfectly into the Kriegsmarine strategy of commerce raiding. The strategic concept behind the pocket battleship was to disrupt and weaken the enemy's supply lines and commercial shipping, a form of economic warfare that could be particularly damaging to an island nation like Britain, heavily dependent on imports. In this context, the Admiral Graf Spee was envisioned as a critical tool for exerting pressure on Allied shipping routes across the vast expanses of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. The early raids and initial impact. At the outbreak of World War II in September 1939, the Admiral Graf Spee, under the command of Captain Hans Langsdorff, was dispatched to the South Atlantic. The ship's mission was to disrupt Allied merchant shipping, thereby drawing Royal Navy vessels away from other critical theaters of operation. Between September and December 1939, the Graf Spee successfully sank 9 merchant ships, totaling over 50,000 tons. These early successes not only inflicted material losses on the Allies but also served to instill a sense of vulnerability and fear within the merchant fleets. The psychological impact of the Graf Spee's raids was significant. Merchants and naval personnel were acutely aware of the ship's presence, leading to a sense of pervasive danger that affected morale and operational effectiveness. The mere threat of encountering the Graf Spee forced the Allies to divert considerable naval resources to hunt down the elusive raider, thereby stretching their capabilities thinner across other strategic areas. The Battle of the River Plate. The most notable engagement involving the Admiral Graf Spee was the Battle of the River Plate, fought off the coast of Uruguay on December 13, 1939. This confrontation with a British hunting group, consisting of the cruisers HMS Exeter, HMS Ajax, and HMS Achilles, was the first major naval battle of World War II. Despite being outnumbered, the Graf Spee demonstrated its formidable firepower, severely damaging the Exeter and causing significant damage to the Ajax and Achilles. However, the Graf Spee itself sustained damage and, critically, its fuel purification system was knocked out, limiting its ability to escape to safe waters. Captain Langsdorff made the decision to seek refuge in the neutral port of Montevideo, Uruguay, hoping to make repairs. The British, aware of the international laws governing neutral ports, launched a successful diplomatic and propaganda campaign to limit the Graf Spee's stay in Montevideo to 72 hours, as mandated by international law. The Scuttling of the Admiral Graf Spee. Faced with the prospect of an overwhelming British force assembling outside the port, and misled by British intelligence into believing that more British ships were on the way, Langsdorff made the fateful decision to scuttle the Admiral Graf Spee on December 17, 1939, rather than risk the lives of his crew in what seemed to be a hopeless battle. The scuttling of the Graf Spee was a significant event for several reasons. Firstly, it was a strategic victory for the Allies. The destruction of a powerful German warship removed a considerable threat from the Atlantic and boosted Allied morale at a critical juncture in the early stages of the war. Secondly, it highlighted the effectiveness of psychological and propaganda warfare. The British used misinformation and diplomatic pressure to influence the outcome, demonstrating the importance of intelligence and psychological operations in modern warfare. Propaganda and the symbolism of the Graf Spee. The Admiral Graf Spee's saga became a powerful propaganda tool for both sides. For the Allies, the successful neutralization of the Graf Spee was portrayed as a symbol of British naval prowess and the effectiveness of their strategy. The battle and the subsequent scuttling were widely publicized, with the British press emphasizing the courage and skill of their naval forces. For Germany, the Graf Spee and its captain, Hans Langsdorff, became symbols of honor and sacrifice. Langsdorff's decision to scuttle the ship, rather than allow it to fall into enemy hands, and his subsequent suicide, were portrayed as acts of nobility and dedication to duty. This narrative was used to bolster the image of the Kriegsmarine and to inspire a sense of loyalty and sacrifice among German military personnel and the general populace. The legacy of the Admiral Graf Spee. The legacy of the Admiral Graf Spee extends beyond its wartime engagements and the dramatic events surrounding its scuttling. The ship's story has been retold in various forms, from books to films, most notably in the 1956 movie, The Battle of the River Plate. These retellings have cemented the Graf Spee's place in popular culture and historical memory as a symbol of early World War II naval warfare. The wreck of the Graf Spee itself has become an important historical site. Efforts to recover and preserve artifacts from the ship have been ongoing, with the aim of preserving this tangible link to the past. These efforts reflect a broader interest in and reverence for the ship's historical significance. Moreover, the Admiral Graf Spee's story provides valuable lessons for modern naval strategy and military history. It underscores the importance of technological innovation, the psychological dimensions of warfare, and the impact of propaganda. The ship's design, missions, and eventual fate offer insights into the complexities and challenges of naval operations in the early 20th century. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Admiral Graf Spee was much more than a technical marvel of its time. It was a significant player in the early naval battles of World War II. Its design and missions reflected the strategic thinking of the Kriegsmarine, while its engagements, particularly the Battle of the River Plate, highlighted the interplay between tactical prowess and psychological warfare. The Graf Spee's legacy endures, not only as a subject of historical study but also as a symbol of the multifaceted nature of war, where technology, strategy, and human decision-making converge.